What do you guys think happens when we die? Picture a wave in the ocean. You can see it, measure it, its height, the way the sunlight refracts, and then it crashes on the shore and then it's gone. But the water is still there. The wave was just a different way for the water to be for a little while. That's one conception of death for a Buddhist. The wave returns to the ocean, where it came from, and where it's supposed to be. Chidyanagani, the good place. Hopefully the ketamine rush. Sprinkle in some DMT and sounds fun. I was dead for millions of years before I was born and it never inconvenienced me a bit. Mark Twain. Experience great death I have, to the world of ketamine I must go. You stop fearing death. That's for sure. Death does not concern us, because as long as we exist, death is not here, and when it does come, we no longer exist. Philosophically it may be true, but all that quote did for me was awaken some existential anxiety. When my grandfather's health had declined to the point it was clear he would not recover, he was offered counseling to help him prepare for the end. Not a particularly religious man, but raised Christian, he chose to have a few sessions with a priest to talk about life, the end of it and possibly an afterlife. The priest asked him, "You are going to die soon. How does that make you feel?" To which my grandpa answered, "I don't know. I've never done it before. I wish that when my time comes I'll feel the same acceptance and will be as down to earth as that man, my example and my hero. We don't know and all we can do is wait and see. I am okay with that." His response made me smirk. When my Phil was diagnosed as terminal, he started counseling. I could totally see him saying something like that in response to the question. I hope I'll say something like that when my time comes. But knowing myself, I'll probably have panic attack after panic attack. Not all of us are as graceful, lol. I'm hoping to meet up with my dog and cross the rainbow bridge with him, but I'm afraid to say that probably nothingness awaits. My cat'll be waiting for me and she'll just bite me. Human. I haven't eaten in so long. Chomp. I like to think of it like a deep sleep but with no dreams. When you are asleep but are not dreaming, you are completely unaware of yourself, where you are, or even that you exist. I think death is probably the same. I have the same theory but can't decide if this sounds scary to me, sounds peaceful, or that I'm utterly neutral on the subject. Neutrality sounds like the most appropriate response, as nothingness isn't inherently good or bad. My opinion changes regularly, so maybe it's somehow a mixture of all three. To expand on what you said, I think what comes after is like what came before. For all I know, my memories can go as far before reaching pure darkness, with nothing beyond. If the afterlife is like the before a life, in lack of better terms, then it will be a state of non-existence, where it doesn't matter much what you were, currently are, and what you could possibly be once more. When you go down for surgery, you are wide awake one moment, and the next thing you know you're coming to in the recovery area. It doesn't matter how much time has passed. That period of darkness could have been 5 minutes or 5 hours and it would feel the same to you. So who knows? Maybe we'll die and at some point 50 billion years from now, when the right molecules come together in the right way, consciousness will exist for us again. So I finally get to have a good night's sleep. Doesn't sound half bad. Death is just another path, one that we all must take. The grey rain curtain of this world rolls back and all turns to silver glass, and then you see it. White shores and beyond, a far green mountain under a swift sunrise. J.R.R. Tolkien. That doesn't sound so bad. Sorts by controversial. Ugh. It's just a bunch of new agey nut jobs, and not the interesting kind. Disappointed. Anyone that types out an exclamation after their post like disappointed, or shameful, or happy, or whatever, I can only imagine they actually did this as a kid too and would just shout hungry whenever they wanted food and such. I will tell you when I discover it. You're the Farid Tarul Mayo. If we're lucky, someone deletes our browser history, blast my cache. Probably like sleep, except you don't dream or wake back up. Sleep is practice for death. Sleep, those little slices of death, how I loathe them. Edgar Allan Poe. I nearly died from an asthma attack when I was 14. That's pretty much what it was like at the end of it. I was lying on the ground looking up at the sky and everything just kinda faded away. I eventually woke up, of course, and the overall thing was 0/10. Do not recommend. but the actual going unconscious part really was just like going to sleep. I remember a similar sensation when being placed under general anesthetic. I think I was only 10 or 11 at the time, but I just faded and my last thought was, wow, this must be what dying feels like. All my psychedelic experience since then I feel maybe sold me a lie. There'll be no fancy visuals, no heading into the cosmos, just a medium-paced fade to black. The student loan people go after our families. Do they really? If they're co-signed. My mom died with student loans and they tried to come after us, but we told them to F off. By come after us they called a few times. Don't you know where you were before you were born? You're going back to that stuff. I can't even remember where I was a year ago. Probably trying to buy toilet paper like the rest of us. My father's balls? No. What made you think you would go back to pee? I love being in your father's balls. They're the only place I felt safe. I legitimately have no clue at all and don't want to waste time guessing. What I hope happens is I can somehow interact still with all the people I've loved in my life. I know that's really optimistic, but if I could decide what happens, I'd love for that to be true. The only thing that I'm pretty sure of is that a human body and mind are limited in perceptive capacity. I think whatever does happen, it's not going to be what I expect. So I've had several near-death experiences of various kinds. 2 traumatic head injuries resulting in extended loss of consciousness. 1 very close call with strep as a young kid resulting in life-threatening fever. And these definitely inform my view. My experience is that when the body is struggling to hold on to life and basically rerouting all resources to regenerative mechanisms, consciousness kind of dials back in scope, pretty similarly to certain types of drug trips I've experienced, especially ketamine. When there's any awareness at all within a near-death state, it's not like normal waking consciousness. It's much more rudimentary. You may be aware of colors, sounds, tactile contact, etc., but you tend to lack any conceptual framework for the sensations. You just register a sense, and that's at the parts of your mind that are normally sorting, categorizing, and putting all that data input together to form consciousness aren't really needed for the task at hand, so they kind of just get out of the way. The nature of experience shifts in the direction of what I can only categorize as more dreamlike. Time seems to become distorted like in a dream. You might experience what feels like an hour in just a few minutes. There is less of a cohesive, grounded sense of personality. We normally can rely on our ego mechanisms to sort and process incoming information when this is more or less stripped away. Awareness is more like a stream of jumbled phenomena. It's easy to lose any sense of self in the mess of unsorted experimental information. My extrapolation from these experiences is that as one gets closer and closer to death, the final shutdown of the brain, the conscious experience may very well continue distorting and dilating indefinitely. At that final point in spacetime between dying and final, ultimate shutdown, the nature of our consciousness would be absolutely nothing like the consciousness we've been familiar with over the course of life. I think it's reasonable to presume that all the various conceptions of afterlife cooked up by the world's religions could be interpretations of the literal experience of the moment of dying. The dying person might experience the very moment of their dying for centuries. We do this kind of thing in dreams, experiencing years in the course of just 6-8 hours, and that's just routine unconsciousness. When you're down to just that one last flicker of firing neurons before it all goes black, who's to say what our perception of the scope of time would feel like? Well, if The Good Place taught me anything, it's that there's a lot of penis flattening in the afterlife for those that are a-holes. All I know is, I don't wanna have my ghost penis flattened, over and over for eternity. The ones who love us will miss us. Keanu Reeves. When I saw this question, this is the first thing that came in my mind. Beautiful line said by Keanu Reeves. OMG, so many upvotes for this comment. This is crazy. Exact same thing as before we were born. This thought puts me into an existential crisis, but so does the thought that my consciousness will continue on into eternity. Even if I were to exist in some kind of paradise, the thought of existing forever is daunting. Your memories, your feelings, and your personality are all part of your brain chemistry and thus tied to your physical body. If there is something left after, would you recognize it as you? I believe we exist forever, but due to the nature of existence we are unable to perceive its length, because it's impossible for us to be cognizant of non-existence, without a brain to experience it. We are and can only be aware of existence, so we will be other people, other beings. But since we can't retain information on our past lives, we aren't aware of them. If we came from the void once, chances are we can come back from it again. That, or the universe is perpetually contracting and expanding, an infinite loop of big bangs, living lives again and again. Some instances we exist, others not. Different outcomes and choices every time. Yep, you were already dead for billions of years. That's probably what happens when you die. If it were up to me, we'd reincarnate. Say the atoms that make up who you are eventually realign into some form of consciousness somewhere in the infinite universe. Being dead forever felt like nothing at all, so the time that passes between when you die and reincarnate as some other consciousness would feel like nothing. 2. I'd like it if time were not linear, so you could reincarnate as a different gender 1,000 years ago, or maybe another species 100,000 years ago, or 1,000 years in the future, just living different experiences over and over forever, without ever knowing you once existed as something else. But yeah, I think really this is it. This is your one chance at being able to experience anything. And you'll probably throw it away on a 9-5 job you don't like, and you'll spend your free time getting drunk and watching mediocre TV, scrolling your phone endlessly, looking for the smallest dopamine hit just to feel anything at all. Jesus Christ, did that last paragraph hit home really hard. There is as yet insufficient data for a meaningful answer. I just want to hold my sons again and never have to let go. I'm an atheist. I often hope I'm dead wrong. I want to see my grandparents again. I miss my grandma so much it hurts sometimes. I can't, or won't imagine losing children. For now, I'm just gonna think about you holding your boys. I know I don't know you, but that love's universal, and tends to look the same. Be well. A lot of people will celebrate. Why? Are you having an existential crisis? Constant. Yes. It's very bad. I'm so anxious that I'm constantly nauseous. It's hard for me to eat, and it's the first thought of my day, making me think that none of this matters. I'll be doing something and randomly tears go down my face. I can't fall asleep at night without some video playing on my phone. It's also insane how many things can trigger the anxiety attack of an existential crisis. Everything does. The worst part is, it's not the bad stuff that makes things bad. The bad things make me feel alive. And the good stuff makes me suffer because I know I'll lose it. I constantly think about the people I love and how one day I may never see them again. That I won't see anyone again. It hurts. One sec, I'll find out. I don't know about you, but I'll have to work for my family as an ancestor. Protecting and guiding whoever's left and whoever comes after me. Maybe until I'm forgotten. Maybe for the rest of eternity. I like to think it's an afterlife, reliving my life from the beginning. But as the actor and also director, everything plays out the way it did. But at any point, I would be able to pause and rearrange whatever I wanted. People would say what I wish they'd said. I say what I wish I'd said. I just want a do-over, you know? Eater. I am an atheist, but if there's an afterlife, this is what I wish for. It's wishful thinking, but IDK like my mind being transferred into a brand new egg to be born. Would not ever remember my past life. I find the reincarnation thing comforting too. Helps me live my life, I guess. I'm terrified of just nothing. We wake up. Minecraft end credits play. No sight, no sound, no touch or taste or smell. Nothing to think with. Nothing to love or link with. The anesthetic from which none come round. Philip Larkin. Oh Bard. I hope it's something like a black void of nothingness where you get to choose what kind of life will your soul live next. Like a character build in a D&D run. But as soon as you announce that you're done, you will have no recollection of your previous life. So you basically get to start a new game. Old me picked the lamest life. Maybe you've picked the best stats hundreds of times. Past you just wanted something boring. Warning. Trippish. I like to believe that when you die, your life flashes before your eyes. This is evident by observing dying people's brain activity, in the hippocampus. Memory bank has a lot of activity, but because your body releases so much DMT, hallucinogen, when we die, it is slowed down to a perceivable rate. Therefore, how do you know if you're really living your life, or if you're dying somewhere in the future and just reliving it in your own head? It doesn't matter though, because at the end of reliving your life, You start dying again and it all goes back to the beginning. Like a mirror in a mirror. I can't believe I'm taking this much time reading this thread while I'm off somewhere dying. Kazjasagd has a really good video called The Egg. I like to think that's what happens. But I don't believe it. That video is just the spoken version of Andy Weir's short story of the same name. Same dude who wrote The Martian. 42. I read a quote a while ago that said we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. Instead we are spiritual beings having a human experience. That's probably not verbatim but that's the gist. Ever since then, I've thought that when we die, our souls leave this plane of existence and go up to another plane, where there are other beings. From there we can decide to have another human experience, or not. It's honestly made me wonder why the F I wanted to have this human experience, if I had a choice in it. I also firmly believe that we do not know the truth because we are limited by our human brains. We would not be able to handle it. Obviously I have no proof of this whatsoever. Death terrifies me so I try not to think about it too much. I also firmly believe that we will not simply cease to exist because I don't accept that our consciousness just ends. Again, this is probably wrong. The only ones who know for sure can't tell us. Your heart stops and brain activity stops and you go to room temperature. You can't tell them what to do. Continues to heat up to lava temperature. Death is the absence of everything, including relief. Life is to heat as death is to cold. Death is the default state of things. Just like coldies, we are dead before we are born, and we are dead when our lives end. There is nothing but a recycling of atoms. Humans will never experience death though, only the process of dying.